Rip starts out like a classic sweaty Miami cop thriller. Dead captain, rumors of corruption, a stash house full of money, and it ends on a claustrophobic loyalty test between two best friends. Over about 2 tense hours, we watched Dane Dumars and JD Burns sweat through their shirts, point guns at each other, and they have a classic standoff between Damon and Affleck. And all of this nearly tears their entire team apart. And all for what? $20 million. And there's this little twist in there that lets you know that it's not even all about the money. In this episode, we're going to break down the full plot of The Rip. We're going to talk about that stash house siege, the double crosses, and that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck standoff that I talked about. If you finish the movie and you're still wondering who's dirty and who may have been playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers, stay locked in with me and let's talk about The Rip. So let's talk about the setup. The film drops us into a humid Miami summer, it seems. We have Lieutenant Dane Dumars, and then we have Sergeant J.D. Byrne. They're the heads of a specialized narcotics unit, the TNT team for the Miami Police Department. And they just recently lost their captain to what is assumed to be a cartel hit. And the two, just like in real life, they aren't just partners, they're basically brothers. As the film unravels, we see them start to act on this anonymous tip that they receive. It's about a house in Hialeah that has some stolen money, or it's a stash house. So not thinking too much about it, they take the tip. They're trying to get some overtime, even though overtime's not authorized. They take the tip. They're going to go out to the stash house. They're going to take a look at it, collect the money because it's probably not that much anyways. So they think, and, just go about their day, end of the day. But as we've seen, even in all the promotional material, this is not some little stash. This is $20 million that is stashed behind the walls of this house. And this is where the story really starts to unravel a little bit, because instead of calling it in, they decide to basically put the house on lockdown, take everybody's cell phones and lock the situation down. And we're going to talk this through and make sure that we're all on the same page to a degree, plug the leaks that may be within this group or definitely in the department. Plug the leaks that may be within this group, but definitely plug the leaks that are coming from our department. And to some, this may not be a big deal, but definitely to some, this looks very suspicious and almost like a robbery in progress, but just from their side. But the bulk of the film takes place inside of this house. Inside of this single house. The temperature rises and it basically becomes this big claustrophobic pressure-cooked environment where tensions rise and paranoia starts to set in, and then it starts to begin this battle of good cop versus bad cop, or at least it seems that way. The entire film is a psychological chess match. That's the best way I could describe it. And it brings to the question, is Dumars, the character played by Matt Damon, is he protecting his team, or is he a tired old man who's tired of being a cop and basically ready to retire? And why not reward yourself on your way out the door if you just happen to come across this large stash of money that nobody knows about outside of your team? So you guys tell me, going into this film, were you expecting the bad boy style shooter, high speed chase type film, or were you kind of expecting this slow, claustrophobic, contained, paranoid drama filled with a little thriller and suspense all wrapped into this cop thriller? Because I would tell you, I was not expecting, especially not from promotional material that they were putting out. I thought that the story would take place in a few different places, nothing large or in the entire city of Miami or just these epic high-speed chases like we do see in the Bad Boys movies. But I was expecting it to be a little bit more spread out, and it didn't bother me that it was contained to this one environment or the environment around this house. Before we crack open the safe and get into the heat, if you like grimy crime thrillers just like this one that turn into these D chess matches, please hit that subscribe button. It lets us know that you enjoy content like this, and we'll make sure that we keep it coming for you. All right, and from here on out, if you haven't seen Rip at this point, you might want to hit pause and come back later after you've seen the film, because everything from here forward is going to contain major spoilers for the film. So hit the pause if you haven't seen it, come back after you watch it, and then let's talk about what you just watched. So like I said earlier, the movie opens up on a brutal tone setter. Captain Velez is brutally murdered in execution style by masked men and left to die, but not before she sends this last-ditch text message to somebody. And we learned that as somebody is and we learned that text message that was sent basically acts as a dead man switch of sorts, and it tips him off to an address in Hialeah that is a stash house. So he rallies his team and his right hand man, JD Byrne, which is played by Ben Affleck. And then you have the other members of the team, which are Mike, which is Stephen Young, Numa, which is Tiana Taylor, and we have Lolo, which is Catalina Moreno. You know, they go into all of this expecting a small time little rip, and it turns into this big ass $20 million stash house. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And everybody's just looking at everybody crazy. Because I mean, how would you feel if you go on a rip, which is supposed to be just typical, and you show up to this woman's house and it's her grandmother's house or whatnot, and you show your paperwork and you go into the walls and you pull out $20 million, and it's just like, well, what the fuck is going on now? And this is where the movie actually kind of shifts. It goes from, I wouldn't call it an action movie, but I would say at this point it's probably been drama, and it shifts into a psychological thriller. So Dumars, instead of calling this in, he neglects to do so and almost just says, I'm not going to do it. And he locks the situation down, taking everybody on the teams and the girl in the house's cell phone and locking the situation down and keeping everybody contained into this house until we figure this out. But pay attention to this one detail, and it was the one detail that I actually caught on to exactly when it happened, and it's that he told every member of the team at a different point in time a different dollar amount that they came to that house to steal. I said steal, I meant rip. So at this point in the movie, it looks to us, at least everybody that's watching, it looks as though he's setting everything up to basically cook the books, and he's going to steal a certain amount of money, and he's telling everybody else a certain dollar amount. That way, when they're investigated, undoubtedly, that all the information is scrambled. We don't know who's telling the truth or who has the money or if anybody has the money or whatever the case may be. But all in all, this is a canary trap. He is setting a trap for the bad guys the entire time. But the tension does peak when JD thinks that his partner and best friend is maybe a little dirty and that he may not be going along with the plan. There are moments where he asks him to call the major, and he asks him if he's going to follow protocol and different things like that. And he reluctantly says yes, but he really doesn't do it. But all in all, it's because he's setting this plan into motion and he's trying to figure out who on his team is dirty. But JD is convinced that, okay, my partner is burned. He's sad. His son has died, we learn. His wife has left him. He's broke. So I'm sad for him, but I understand, but you're not going to take me down with you. Not going to happen. So JD does what any good cop would do in this situation. He takes out his burner phone and he calls a DEA agent that we met earlier in the film. And he lets him know that, hey, I think Dumars is burned. I think he's the guy who's been ripping off these stash houses. He could be the person that murdered the captain. And yeah, he's going rogue, basically. So this is kind of where the twist comes in. We see Mike, who is played by Stephen Young. He also has a burner and he keeps texting somebody. I assumed that maybe he was the mole in the group when I saw him pull out that burner cell phone, and I thought maybe he was the one maybe texting the major to call him back up and arrest his partners or whatnot. But turns out he's actually one of the damn villains. But before we get there, I'm not sure if it was his text messages or JD's phone call that set it all up, but a team shows up there and lights up the house. Gunfire everywhere, spraying the house down, people ducking from bullets or whatever the case may be. And all of this is happening in a neighborhood. And it kind of turned, and it kind of seemed like a plot hole for a second, but I do remember them saying in a moment in this film that the cartel basically was buying up neighborhoods and stuff like that. So they basically own everything. So if anybody did stay there, it would be people that they would have there, or maybe it's just empty. But all that aside, we know that the team showed up to kill Byrne and Dumars and the rest of the team. So after bullets basically tear apart the entire house, the team is still alive, everybody's still living, and I'm not sure how the bad guys knew to call, but they decided to make a phone call, and they just wanted to let them know that, hey, 150,000 isn't worth dying over. And remember earlier, and I'm sure you caught on to it as well, when I told you to pay attention to the amount of money that he was telling each individual character, the only person that he told $150,000 to was Mike. He told JD 300. He told Numa 75. And I can't remember what he told Lolo, but it was a different number. The only person that he told 150K to was Mike. So Dumars knows all of this in his mind. He basically sets his plan into motion after he figures out which person in the group is the snitch and or the traitor, however you want to look at it. We have this moment where Dumars and JD are on the phone with a cartel captain, and he basically tells them that they had nothing to do with the captain's murder. And that basically kind of reaffirms his suspicion about who may be the traitor within the group or within the police department as a whole. So back at the house, we see Mike. He's looking a little suspicious. He's a little sweaty. He's a little out of character at this point in the film. He talks to the other two female cops to see what they're doing. They're counting money and getting ready to pack it up and load it up. He talks to the granddaughter who they have handcuffed, and we see him look over at this flame. And then magically the house catches on fire, and there's no mystery to who really did it unless you're crazy. But the house catches on fire. They're trapped in here, so now they have to load all the money into these bags and get out of the house. So by now, the SWAT DEA team shows up and, hey, what's going on, or whatever the case may be. And Dumars is a little thrown by this, but he's not thrown by this. He plays along with it, and he lets them know that, hey, we found this money. Let's load the money into the back of the truck. And, he insists that the two female cops and the granddaughter stay at the house. He played his cards very, very well. He was definitely playing chess, and the way that the film was shot allowed him to play chess in front of all of our faces and not knowing what was really going on the entire time, also in front of our faces. But in the back of the truck, this is where Dumars reveals his hand. He lets them know that he never even wanted the money. He knew that the captain was killed by a cop, and he used his stash house and the money to basically set up a trap for whoever it was, because he knew that this amount of money would bring out whoever that person or people were that killed the captain. And in that moment, JD realized that, Dumars isn't a bad guy. He is a good cop, just like me. And they reveal a scene earlier where Dumars met up with him, and, that scene where the gun in the shadow. But he basically told him, like, hey, I'm using this as a trap. I just wanted to see who did this. But this was after he uncovered the whole $150,000 after he set that trap. But he just wanted to find out who the mole was. That way he knew who he could trust, or whatever the case may be. So after he reveals all of this information and catching basically Nix and Mike red-handed, just sitting there looking stupid with their mouths in their laps, undoubtedly a shootout takes place in the back of the police van, killing the driver. They don't run off the road or anything, but kills the driver. But Nix thinks he has the upper hand, not knowing all the while, even though JD mentioned that, you're on speakerphone and my brother is here because they were stopped after their little gunfight, and the driver was shot and they switched vehicles. This was a trap as well. Nix and Mike try to steal the bags, get off with the money, and, run away with it. And we all know they're not going to get away. Even if they thought they were going to get away, which I'm sure they didn't think they could really get away, but we all knew they weren't going to get away with this at this point. They were eventually caught. Nix was executed and Mike was arrested. But the funny thing was, the bags that they stole were dummy bags the entire time. These two dummies didn't even check to see if money was in the bags. They grabbed the bags, loaded them up. And this was a whole bait and switch moment that showed where Dumars was saying certain things so that Mike could hear him. That way he could relay information back to his bad guy team. All the while, he was actually being a good cop and setting up this one, but letting his team know that, he could be trusted or whatever the case may be. So I thought that was beautifully done, and I love the reveal. It's kind of a lot like the Dead Man mystery, Knives Out. It kind of played out like that, where we see this one film in front of us, and then it takes a portion of this film to go back and show us what really happened and what was really going on. And it's very enlightening when you see it that way, and how he actually trapped the bad cops in this moment in his little trap that he set up for them. But the film ends, honestly, surprisingly wholesome. Mike and JD sitting on the beach, sun rising, them smiling, beat up. So not as ambiguous. It's pretty stale, to be honest with you, but happy ending for this type of movie, and really didn't expect that because most people die in these movies. So, but it did end on one good note. The granddaughter got a 20% recovery fee or whatever they called it for turning in $20 million. So she did walk away with $4 million. So that was nice. And then, like I said, we get that final shot on the beach that answers the question to Matt Damon's tattoo on his hand, which is, are we the good guys? And obviously they are the good guys. And then, we fade to black. So some things I picked up in this film that I just want to talk about real quick. One thing is the phone book weight, the bag that the guys thought that they stole. So in reality, money is very, very heavy and paper isn't. So when they picked up those bags to, throw them on their backs, because they were phone books and paper, the weight would have shifted. So in my opinion, it would have been kind of obvious that at least all the money wasn't in there. But I just bring all that up just to say that maybe they should have checked. I understand that's not part of the film. That would have made them smart criminals, but maybe they should have checked. And then, like I brought up earlier, the whole response time thing to the neighborhood, one of my friends brought it up to me. Like I said, they noted in the film that this was a cartel neighborhood and cartels had been buying up neighborhoods. So more than likely, these are all empty houses. And that's why the response time or lack thereof was what it was. What did you guys think about those moments and mechanics within those scenes and in that film as a whole? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll get back to you, and I'll definitely respond to what you think. So one of the last things we're going to talk about, and this is a section that I'm adding in for the stream, and should this have been in the theaters or should it have been on a stream? This one is kind of tricky because of the actors that you have, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck alone, it could have been in the theaters and probably did really well. It was beautifully shot. I loved the movie. It was gritty. The story was good. They had the director to go to the theaters. So this could have been a theater movie, but I actually think it was perfect for streaming. It wasn't this big visual spectacle like the movies that have been coming out over the last few months, the Avatars of the world, just to name one. So it doesn't demand that IMAX screen. But this could have very easily went to the movie theaters if it was meant to. Had great sound, those gunshots that were whizzing, that sounded beautifully in the surround sound. And so, like I said, this could have easily went to the theaters, but I think this was great for your couch at home. And another thing I'm going to do is rate this, and I'm not sure what my score would be, but I would probably just off the rip maybe give it a 8 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, somewhere in that range. But I would definitely say that this is a day one watch. I don't think you should watch this after because people like me are probably going to spoil it. So this is definitely a day one watch. Watch it the first day it comes out if you get a chance to, but definitely put this in your playlist so that you can watch it whenever you have the moment to. But this also isn't something that you just put on as background noise because you're going to miss all the points and the cool stuff in the movie. So just a little tidbit there. But the rip basically sets up as a story of greed, and it turns into a good cop versus bad cop, and the good cops won in the end. So great story, great movie. Go give it a check and keep coming back for more. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.